I want to take this time to thank our viewing audience for your support on Real Talk with Jean Price. We have some exciting news. We are now going to be featured on YouTube as well as Facebook. We have had an opportunity to discuss debt cancellation, the pandemic. We've discussed depression, anxiety. We even discussed what it's going to be like to go back to school, how our restaurants going to fare. You don't want to miss what we have upcoming on Real Talk with Jean Price. So remember, join me on YouTube and Facebook with Real Talk with Jean Price every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. I'll see you soon on Real Talk with Jean Price. You might be facing the most challenging thing in your life like I was. But I'm here to tell you, I'm here. Real Talk is here to hear your story and to help you get through it. Make sure you join me on Real Talk. Well, I can't believe it's been 2 months since we've started Real Talk with Jean Price, and I'm so grateful for your love and your support in helping us get through this small time. So much has happened, so many wonderful things, and I'm grateful. I'm doing well. The Lord is still touching my body. Every checkup that I go to, it's been amazing. So it's been a journey, but can I tell you something? I'm learning in this season not to call it a journey, right? What I'm doing actually is calling it a road. And the reason I call it a road is because when I think about when the Bible says in Luke chapter number 24, the story of a road to Emmaus was about two men. One was unnamed and one was Cleopas. And the Bible goes on to talk about how they were discussing about something that happened in their life. And they were kind of distraught and they were a little discouraged. That's how I was. But the beautiful part about that story is that Jesus came and he was talking with them. And one of the key points in the story that got my attention was he said to them, well, what things were you discussing? And I love the Lord because God goes right to the heart of the matter. And God went to the heart of the matter in my life. And I like to call this a necessary road because hadn't I gone through what I went through in February, I wouldn't be sitting here feeling like I'm feeling right now. I'm just so grateful tonight that doors have opened and many things have happened to have Real Talk with Jean Price where it is today. So I wanted to take this time to come back on and let you know, listen, I'm checking in and I'm doing well. Thank you again for all your support. Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming in tonight. I appreciate your support. So glad you have tuned into Real Talk. But listen, before we get to Real Talk, let's talk. I want you to go on YouTube. I want you to subscribe. It is exclusive. I want you to comment. I want you to like. I want you to share. And listen, hit me up. Maybe I could talk to you. You might want to have some questions for me. Kind of can tell you what's going on, and you can kind of share with me what's going on with you. But we are elated to know that we are now on Facebook Live and also on YouTube. So we're going to get into tonight's discussion. I have been waiting for this. We're doing a part 2 tonight. Back to school, but not back to normal. We featured this show in part 1, and it was such a great show because we were talking about the preparation as kids, parents, and teachers. We're preparing to go back into a world where things just weren't normal anymore. How are they going to fare? What was going to come out of all of this? So tonight I have 2 wonderful guests with me. I have a parent that has some concerns, that has some questions, and also have some feedback. They want to share with us tonight, what's it like to have your children go back to school? But then I also have a teacher with me. And she has some input in what's it like from their perspective and what teachers are going through and what they might be feeling. So I'm going to ask that you sit back, join in, comment. We're just so excited about the show tonight. So I want you to join with me tonight as we introduce Latoya Felician, to join us right now on Real Talk. She has children in school, and she's going to talk to us what it's like for that parent to go in there and get back into normal. I also have with me Ms. Nadra Lipka, and Nadra is a phenomenal teacher. She's going to share with us what they're going through. So thank you, ladies, for joining me tonight on Real Talk.
Thank you for having us.
Listen, before we get started, the first thing I want to say is thank you. And the reason I want to say thank you is because thank you for your service, Nadra. Thank you for getting out there. Thank you for Zooming. Thank you for keeping us aware. Thank you for taking the time and not giving up on what you feel God is giving you to do to help our children. I want to thank you, Latoya, for your wisdom and being one of those parents that's concerned. You get into the nitty gritty of the matter. You want to make sure your children have every internet schoolology. I'm learning myself this stuff. Zoology, I think it's called schoolology. You got all kinds of internet things, emails going. So I just want to let you know, from somebody like myself who doesn't have children in the school system, thank you both. So we're going to start off tonight. Nadja, why don't you kind of tell us a little bit about this, what you do and what kind of teacher, and tell us a little bit about this.
Okay, thank you for having me on your show, Pastor Jean. I really appreciate it. Anyway, so my name is Nadra Lipka, and I am a special education teacher. I've been an educator for over 10 years or so. Currently, I work in a district on Long Island, and I've been in that district for over 6 years. I actually work with students with disabilities, but I am also certified to work with students from birth all the way up to 6th grade. So currently I'm working with students with disabilities, grades 1 to 5. And the pandemic definitely has rocked the boat. But, we're learning, growing together. And that's a great thing about being a teacher. You're always learning. I'm always in school.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome. Well, Latoya, why don't you share with the viewing audience and with us tonight from a parental perspective? Tell us a little bit about what you do to prepare your children. What was it like to prepare them for what they were going to face in September?
Well, I did my best at preparing them for the new be facing that they will be facing this upcoming school year. Our school district did very well at telling them what they would be going into as far as keeping everything together, how their schedules were going to be. But I think the best thing that I could do would be keeping a schedule at home, giving them, keeping everything in order at home, so that they would understand how everything would be at home versus at school. Because just in case things would go astray when they got to school, I would have everything in a system at home. I'm a very organized person because I have 4. So it's very important that I make sure that their minds are stimulated, being that everything was on the computer, a lot of things were their brains were a little fried. I don't know if that's the right term to use. So I had to make sure that they understood that not everything had to be stimulated through electronics. So being that we had to make sure that they got up, that they made sure that they had breakfast, that they got themselves, everything was in an organized fashion. So I made sure that they had everything on a board, everything was in vision mode, so we had to do things to make sure that they kept things in an organized fashion, basically. But the school did very well, making sure that when they went in, they had a system. And so that I made sure that same system was at home as well. So I did the online learning, especially during the summer. I made sure that they read properly because they lost a lot last school year. So I made sure that they read properly at home. Even though I was working, I was making sure that they were keeping things going. But it was very strenuous on me as well. So I had to do a lot. I had to do a lot, and it was hard, very hard.
Now you said can you hear me, Nadra? Okay. When you got left school, when school ended in March, one of the things that I felt, in part one of the segment that we did back to normal, back to school, but not back to normal, there were so many challenges leading up to kids going back to school. And Latoya, you kind of touched on it a little bit, but Nadra, from the teacher perspective, there's a lot of fears. Um, we cannot dismiss the different things that the teachers felt. We'll get back to some of the organizations that you talked about, Toy, but I want to kind of talk a little about the emotional side of it, what the teachers feel, and then Latoya will go back to find out what some of the parents felt. Because toward the end of the school system, when kids were at June, a lot of parents gave up. A lot of kids were tired. A lot of teachers were tired. So what's different though, Nadra, going back into the school system now?
So I totally agree that everyone was tired by the end of last school year. It was something that no one ever imagined that would happen. So, and we pretty much had to just literally move into online learning without even being prepared for it, right? The preparation was key, and we didn't have time to do that. We kind of just went along and learned as we go. We were learning with the students last school year. With this school year, we're a little more prepared. We're not there yet, but we're more prepared because number one, we know what to expect, kind of, sort of, because we've done it already, right? So we know some of the things that worked and we know some of the things that didn't work. And so that enabled us to do a better job at starting out this school year. One example is in my school district, what they did, they actually allowed the teachers in the lower grades to loop, which means if you had those students last year, you're going to have those students again the next year. So this year we would have the same students. And that I thought was really phenomenal. At first, it was a lot of uproar because as educators, we're like, what? We just had them for a whole year. But then when we thought about it, it made sense, right? Because it's still fairly new, right? The way we're teaching is still fairly new. However, we know those students already. We have a rapport with those students. So now it's working on the part, on the learning, right? It's where we're going to work on making e-learning even a lot better, right? And engaging the students more with the e-learning portion of it. So it was nerve-wracking, and it still is a little bit, but we've learned a lot. We've grown a lot, and I'm looking forward to a lot of success this year.
Yeah, that's absolutely, that's wonderful. And both of you said something that was so one key word that I found that both of you said it was powerful: preparation.
Mm.
That now you both from a parent perspective, Latoya and Nadra from a teacher perspective, the preparation was more there than it was before. But I have to tell you, Tracy chimed in and she said something that's so true. Tracy's saying that she's truly concerned about our children, the young people going back to school to try to regain the normalcy though I know what you have in place, Latoya, is from parental perspective and you as well, Nadra, from a teacher perspective. But from a normalcy perspective, how a kid's going to fare, because you got to remember, I have grandchildren, but they're Tuesday, Thursday, but then Wednesday, and like the 2 days home or 3 days home. What kind of normalcy? Like that's what I want to talk about, the emotional normalcy of our children. Does anybody want to kind of share with that?
I don't personally, there's no normalcy. I don't think there's going to be a normalcy anymore. I think we kind of have to adjust. We have to adjust to what's happening. And then as we go, um, learn from either the mistakes that are made, and also when it comes to the social emotional part, um, definitely paying attention to our children. Even last year when we first went into the pandemic and went to do e-learning, a lot of my parents would call me and say they don't want to do any schoolwork today. And as a teacher, yes, I'm guessing everybody probably would think, oh well, you're going to say to the parent, no, get them on, they need to do the work. And I mean, sometimes I'll just say, okay, today we're going to take a break, put them on the phone, and I have a conversation. Oh, how are you doing? Okay, you didn't get to finish this. That's okay. You know what? We're going to start afresh tomorrow. So sometimes they just need a break because this is not normal for them, quote unquote, right? And so we have to address that part of it. And their social emotional part of it, the social emotional part of it is so important, right? They're stuck sitting in front of a computer for whatever amount of hours, or I know sometimes we give them a break, but it's still just not, what they're used to. So we have to make sure we're paying attention to them, right? We're listening to what they're saying. We're actually paying attention to their body language. And when they need a break, give them a break. If they get upset because they don't understand, give them a break, talk to them, or even just switch it up. Maybe even speak to the teacher. I think that's also very important to make sure we're communicating with whoever the educator is, the teacher is, the school district. Communicate with them what's working. Parents, you have to do that. Let them know what's working and what's not working, because that's the best way to do it, right? We're all learning. We're all in this together.
I was going to say, I totally reason that I sent my kid for they're in group A to do Monday and Tuesday and every other Wednesday in school, and then Thursday and Friday to do online school, is because of some sort of normalcy. They needed to be in school to have some sort of social, I guess, adjustment with their friends, to be with other people. Because in March and April, during that time, they were frustrated. They were inside the house all the time, besides the time that I let them outside. But they didn't. Morgan was frustrated. Jared was frustrated. I mean, everybody was just on edge. The frustration level was just too much. It was too much on everybody. And not that my other three are that I had to do their work for them, but just the adjustment was just too much. And now I know that we're in a routine of things. We have to adjust to the new normal, but it's still a lot on them. And I think that all the other parents, I understand that we're all a little fearful of the virus, but we want to get back to something that seems that we can all handle. And I feel bad for the other parents who have children that are younger, because they have to pay more attention to the schoolwork, not only do their jobs from home, but they got to pay attention to the work that has to be done with their children. I mean, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, they got to get involved inside of that schoolwork. And some of that stuff, I mean, tell you, I don't even know. I don't know math work. I don't know. I'm sitting there emailing the teachers. I'm like, okay, Morgan, hold on a second. Let me just figure this out while I'm doing other work. And I own a business. So I understand my own frustration is a lot. So to have children frustration, and I know that they're frustrated with the boatload of work that the teachers give them, is a lot. So I know it's not normal, but we do have to adjust, and I get it, but the adjustment is a lot.
Yes, it's challenging.
I'm one of those people, especially in this season of my life. I try to take things now and change the perspective and how I see it. You know what I mean? How I view it, in order to get something different out of it. And that's kind of what I do. So to make you laugh, to what Latoya was saying, the other night, one of my grandchildren had math to do. I have not done fractions. I'm in my 50s at this point, so I have not done fractions. So the question was 6 plus a quarter with 12 minus 8 in parentheses. And I'm looking at this going, are y'all really kidding me right now? You really want me to help him with this? So I get it. Us grandparents, we're jumping out there too to try to help out, help our kids. And it was so funny. And not that the situation's funny, but it actually sparked something in me to want to kind of learn a little bit more. So we actually called my daughter called up one of her friends who's a nurse who went to school and knew fractions. And she sat there. We have her on the speakerphone, and my husband and I are with my grandson. So we were trying to make something out of it, perspective. Instead of it and I get the frustration, I get the routine, I get the preparation. I said perspective. So when we got finished working out this problem, by the time her friend was on the phone who gave the answer, I gave my perspective on it, which I was still wrong, but it allowed us to jump into it as a family.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? We got into it. Everybody had a different answer except for the person on the phone. So I have to change my perspective and how we're going to go about doing it. So saying that, is it any kind of way that we could kind of make I don't want to say a game out of it, but make it where it's a little more inviting? You know what I'm saying? Two teachers, and I'll get your perspective in a minute, from Georgia, did a rap song. I don't know if you saw this. This was on Facebook. Two different teachers, two different grades. They took rap and they made something out of it. Creativity is what I'm really saying. Is there anything creative that we can pull in, right, guys? Come on. Thank you, Tracy. Tracy's agreeing with us right now that we can do different. Nadra as a teacher, but then Latoya as a parent. So I'm one of those grandmothers. I'll get a song, one of my gospel songs, and I'll just get out there and start doing something with it. Give me your perspective on that.
Oh, I totally agree. I totally agree with that. Even before COVID-19, I always, as a special education teacher, I can't just do the teaching and you listen and then you go back and you do no, that doesn't work for my population of students to begin with. All children learn differently, right? So we have to try to reach them. And sometimes you don't know how they're going to receive the information you're giving. So you have to provide multiple avenues, right? So I could do a chart. I could also sing. Like you said, I don't have the voice of a singer, but I try my best and I'll do it, or do a rap. Sometimes there's a game that you could bring into it. You have to make it engaging for them, because other than that, we're going to lose them, right? Mm-hmm. They all learn differently. We have to make sure that we're figuring out, okay, I'm going to make sure that I am engaging all of my students, not just one, not just two, all of them. So you have to bring in those different multidisciplinary approach so that you're reaching all of the students. And make it fun.
Right. That's basically what I'm saying. It's how do you keep learning engaging? Mm-hmm. Make it fun. Make it where it's because you guys are saying it. It's so true. If it's not normal, we're trying to make it where they can feel a little normalcy. My grandson, who lives in the Carolinas, and I'm going to get Latoya's perspective. Everything for him is in his one classroom: lunch, gym, teaching, one classroom, all the way. Mm-hmm. That teacher has to come up with something that's going to be so creative, because that child is in that one room. You know what I'm saying? The whole time. So to you, Latoya, what have you put into place creative wise when the kids are home? Because they're being homeschooled on the off day.
Can't be as creative with my older children because they kind of have Google meets with their teachers. Everything is based. My district is kind of different. Their Google meets are with they go through the class periods, and it's kind of it's actually like school. Mm-hmm. They actually see their teacher and their students on a computer all day long throughout the day. So the only thing I can be creative with is basically with homework, if they need me to do that, because they're a little older. But if I had younger children, I think that would be a more creative way for me to do, like with Maddie, because she's 2.5. So I would have, but I agree with that. But I think that I think that creative learning can go in the home, and it can go spiritually speaking as well. If we were at church, if we did the same thing,
Mm-hmm.
we should do that all over. I think because
Mm-hmm.
children are visually learning, they need to do the same thing. We should be able to educate them all around.
Yeah.
So I agree with that. Totally, because when my children were smaller, I used to use a vision board to teach them to be able to learn the things that God gives me the blueprint to teach my children. We are the first teachers, the parents.
Mm-hmm.
So I agree with that.
Well, listen, we have so much more that we're going to be talking about. I viewers that are out there, they're commenting, they're questioning. I want you to prepare yourselves, Nadra and Latoya, because, and viewers, I want you to chime in, share with us what you feel, share with us. You may have some questions for Nadra, who's in the school system, or Latoya, who has some things in place from a parent perspective. Let us hear from you. You have some kids that are maybe be in college and they're struggling. They may want to know, well, listen, what do I do? Listen, we want you to stay tuned to Real Talk. We'll be right back after this commercial break. In the beginning, it was actually scary. Now I feel like, again, hadn't I gone through it, I wouldn't be where I am now. My relationship with Christ, it has just reached a peak. And I don't want to be cliche-ish and say another level, because I don't want to say that. It's at a place where I've desired for it to be. I'm a dreamer, for those that know me. Just being able to communicate with God. God gives me dreams. He speaks to me. It's just at a place that I've yearned for to go back to. I was on a road, right? I was going. Anybody that knows me, last year, I was speaking, I was traveling, I was doing all kinds of things. And I felt like, no, I'm grateful God slowed me down. I'm grateful God slowed me down. I am. Because it gave me an opportunity to kind of put things in perspective. And now my perspective is God first in everything, even more so. Have you been enjoying the show? Make sure you comment and like. Tell us what you want to talk about. It might be featured on the next Real Talk with Jean Price. This week on Real Talk with Jean Price. Welcome back to Real Talk. We are doing part 2 to back to school, but not back to normal. Tiara, you commented, and it's so powerful what you said. Tiara says that yes, she saw the creativity of the teachers is definitely needed, especially when children learn so differently. I remember hearing my husband say one time in church that you have to find the bend in the child. You got to see what works for that child. So thank you, Tiara, for commenting on that. And Catherine, we're so grateful that this is some good information that's being talked about. So I'm so grateful to have Latoya and Nadra back with us, and they are really giving us their perspective on part 2 of back to school, but not back to normal, from a parent perspective, but also from a teacher perspective. Nadra, I want to talk to you for a second. You start an organization entitled Alabasta Consulting Services. Can you kind of share with us what that's about?
Oh, yeah, sure. So this is my first business that I started. And with my business, I consult with parents, doing mostly special education advocacy. And what that entails pretty much is if you have a child that needs services, or if you have questions in regards to getting services for your child, then I would technically help you, right, with navigating the school system, because it can be, difficult at times. So being an educator, and that's my area of specialty. So that's what I've been doing, working with parents with getting their children services within the school district, and also tutoring children, helping them to reach their fullest potential, because all children can learn. They learn at different pace, they learn different ways, but it can be fun and they can learn, and they just need to work to their fullest potential.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Nadra. Toya, I want to ask you a question. What are some of the things that you could say to parents as far as, oh my goodness, it's so overwhelming. I think we all three have agreed that this is overwhelming time. But from an emotional standpoint as a parent, what are some of the things you kind of shared how frustrating it can be with how it was, and this is where you are right now? What are some of the emotions that parents feel trying to get this normal together?
Wow, there's so many different emotions. I can only talk about myself personally. Um, I know that I had, when this pandemic first started, I was opening a new business, and everything was on a rise. Everything was going good, and I had just put Maddie into daycare, and everything was great, and the kids are going back to school, and to have everything be shut down, and the kids, I had just talked to the kids about, mommy's, I had stayed home for 13 years. So I'm like, mommy's starting something new, and we're all going to be in this together. And he was like, yeah, mom, we're right behind you. And then when we all had to stay home together and then have something so great come upon us, the sense of frustration in the household was just like mind blowing. And to see them all react so differently, especially when you have a 13-year-old and he's going through hormones and all this stuff, and then he's back talking, and then you have a 10-year-old and he's just like, yeah, mom, I'm frustrated. I don't know what to do. And, I can't read this. And you don't know what to say. And then you have an 8-year-old and she's trying to figure out, she's whining, she's being dramatic, and the 2-year-old's just crying all over the place. I can only and then my frustration level's up here. And then you have a husband who is out there trying to work, and you're worried about him. And then all of a sudden Black Lives Matter, and then everyone, the cops and everything, and you worry about your husband on the street. The sense trying to keep a family together becomes overwhelming. And, if you don't have God in the center, everything will fall and will crumble. I try my hardest. Number one, prayer has to be in the center of it. And it is so difficult to keep your children together. And I understand how parents feel. It is hard. You want them to go to school. You want them to get out. You say either go outside, go walk the streets, go ride, go play in dirt, go do something. Because it's time. Something has to happen. I don't care what age they are. Something just has to happen. So I don't know. There's no other word than, there are words, but overwhelming frustration. There's a lot of stuff. And plus you want them to be protected. There's so many things. So we just all have to, I know I live in a complex where there's a lot of military people, and we all try to be together. And that's the sense. We all just have to work together in this.
Corliss said, you said something first, Toya. What is our nucleus, our foundation, and I think Nadra would agree with this as well. Prayer is the nucleus for all of us. And Corliss, you said something when Corliss commented. Corliss said that even when she's doing things with her son, she said prayer she tries to implement and learn it even while he's out there playing. And then Yesenia commented on the same lines and said, keep God in the center.
Mm-hmm.
Keeping God in the center. So I just want to talk about that for a few minutes, because what are some strategies, Nadra? I know from the professional side where you are, because they took prayer out of school and so forth. And I know you have to be extremely careful. And I don't want you to say anything on this live feed that would jeopardize anything where your work is concerned. So, but I will kind of deviate a little bit, and just if you can give your personal perspective without bringing in your professional, because I know you have to be careful. I get it. How do you feel about that?
To be honest, of course we can't in the school setting, call the students to pray, but you have to let your action speak pretty much, right? You lead by your example. So the words that you use, the way I communicate with the parents, oftentimes that's how my parents usually I always end up talking to them about Christ and Jesus because of maybe something I did or something I said to their child that really struck them that was different. And then they would say, it's the first time that anyone ever maybe like went out of the way, or I'll go to a parent's house and drop something off, and they'll say, "It's the first one you drove all the way here to give me something. That's so awesome." I'll respond by saying, "It's okay. Don't worry about it. Once you guys are safe, God bless you." And then that kind of usually it's, like a little nugget. And then later on, maybe when we're talking, that's how like Jesus and having a conversation about church, that's how that usually comes into contact. That's how we usually, from my perspective, that's how it usually happens. But like I said, you have to lead with example. So keeping Christ in the center means that you are living a life that's pleasing, right? You're trying,
Yes.
right? Because we all have sinned and fall short of the glory of God. So you're trying to live a life that's pleasing to Him. But with that kind of example, trust me, the children in the classroom, they will see something different. And even my colleagues, sometimes they used to say to me when I first started at my job, "There's just something different about you," or they're like, "Oh, you have this aura." And personally, I used to say, "I do? I don't know." And I don't remember the message that Pastor preached, but Pastor did preach a message at one point, and it helped me to realize that, oh, it's not me, it's the God in me. They're literally seeing like God's aura from me because I never understood what they were saying, right? So you have to lead by example. I think that's the best way to do it, leading by example. And every day, literally, I don't think I've prayed this much in my entire life. And one of the things that I want to do is try to keep it that way. I was praying a lot when it came to the pandemic. And it dawned on me that I should have been doing that, prior to the pandemic. I should have been praying more than once. I should have been praying 3 times, 4 times. I should have been reading my Bible once I have the time to do it, not just, when I wake up or when I go to bed. So, yeah.
That's awesome. What about for you, LaToya?
I think that it is very important that we keep, we definitely keep God in the center. You know, I make it a point to make sure that my household is, I'm sorry. I make it a point to make sure that my household is, when we wake up in the morning, it's filled with worship in the beginning of our day. And my kids are definitely prayed for before they even enter school, whether it's virtual learning or even before they even leave the street, to make sure that the hedge of protection is around them, and whatever gaps that I'm not even feeling, that God even fills in those gaps.
Yes.
Because like Nadja said, we're not perfect. None of us are. Only God can do those things. So prayer has to be in the center of our lives, and that's that's it. I'm sorry. That's just it.
It's okay. It's first of all, let's just be, it's not easy being on live, but we're just so used to it, but you guys are doing a phenomenal job. And just the ability to be able to share from a parent perspective and from a teacher perspective and what is going on in our world. And we don't know if it's going to ever go back. if it's going to ever go back. What I've used this to my advantage. And I don't know how the two of you feel, and those that are watching, those that are commenting, I'm using all of this to my advantage. And when I say to my advantage, if it means learning a little more, if it's becoming better, if whatever it is, that's what I'm doing in this time of what they're calling it the new normal. I'm calling it, I'm taking full advantage of it. So, right? Think about it for a second. Don't you want to take advantage of what's really going on? If you can be a better teacher, Nadra, if you can, just do better at what you're doing. If you, Latoya, can add a little more as a parent, doesn't it make you just want to do things better? But just guess what? Before you two of you answer, we're going to take a commercial break. We'll be right back. Listen, you guys don't want to miss your answer, so you stay tuned. And don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel. See you in a few minutes. We'll be right back. Know about me, you're going to learn that it is my heart's desire to see women like yourselves and women like myself to go ahead and bond together. The Bible says that a threefold cord cannot be easily broken. And I believe tonight that we're going to break some things. We're going to take off some shackles. We're going to set some perspectives in order.
It's building the right people around you that can see what's going on with you. And that's not always easy either, because that takes some serious discernment, because you have to be very careful of who you can be naked in front of. You have to really, really pray to God, like, who can I go to during this time? Who can I trust during this time that won't spread my business out elsewhere?
Women that might reach out to you and they want to talk about your God. They want to know, tell me about a God that can help me while I raise my 3 children by myself.
He is whatever you need him to be.
Yes, he is.
So, I just felt that. Oh, glory. He is whatever you need him to be. Like, he's not one dimensional, right? So you may be struggling in one area. God can be that. He can be the provider. He could be your healer. He could be your source. He could be a deliverer, the way maker. Like, whatever they need him to be.
The faith that I have is more so aligned with how I get things and how I've succeeded. Sometimes I wonder to myself, like, how is it even possible that I've achieved what I've achieved? And really bring it back to, like, my mom always says, you only do that with the Lord. I think it's part of the process. Also being empathetic to yourself and trusting yourself and not judging yourself too hard. Because I remember when I was in my depths and I was talking to my mom about my relationship with my God and my belief. Like Jasmine was saying, like, it really is a process. You have to allow yourself to get to every step of it, even if it is a little bit of doubt.
I know that, yes, there may be a scar, but that scar is my story. So it's, you have to go through, you got to go through the ugly sometimes, and you're going to have good days, you're going to have hard days, but in the end, like, you will heal and you're going to have a story to tell.
Go girl, that somebody is rooting for you to win, that everything may seem to be in chaos right now, but it's going to get better. God is going to see you through it. And there is an expected end. At a point in time, you will arrive there, and it will all be worth it. You might not understand it now, but in the end, it will all be worth it.
Have you been enjoying the show? Make sure you comment and like. Tell us what you want to talk about. It might be featured on the next Real Talk with Jean Price. We are back live. Thank you again, guys, for Real Talk. This has been a great discussion, and I really feel like our viewing audience, they're chiming in. They have questions within themselves. Before we're going to be closing down the show in a few minutes, and I'm going to invite you guys to come back, but I really want you to have the last say so before we close it on that question I asked. How can we take advantage of what's going on? So I'm going to have Latoya tell us, how can we take advantage? Nadra, you speak, and then we're going to, just tell us, how do we take advantage of all this?
So I think how we can take advantage of this as a parent is definitely have a routine for your children. We talked about prayer. We talked about definitely keeping God first. But I also thought, I was talking to my mom today about definitely having other things that our children can find beneficial for their souls. I was looking at something on the news today, and two kids had came up with something to give back to their community, and I was thinking that our children need to be able to give and not always take. And if they're going to be home so much, they need to be able to come up with something that they can be able to give back to their community. There are so many things that are going on right now. They need to be able to come up with innovative ideas, and they need to have foundational values. And if we can always have some creative ideas as parents to bring our families together, come up with businesses for our children, whether they want to make bracelets, whether they want to make T-shirts, just to get them in the mode of building stuff for themselves, for their families, because they're learning things, but the things that they learn at home, the building blocks for their families, are also very necessary. If they're going to take this time to be at home, we need to build their souls and build their minds as well. We're doing so many different things. Give them vision boards. Give them planners. The school gives them planners, but you give them planners. I saw something for my daughter that was there was a book telling a me and you. I want to get connected with her. I don't want to get connected with her as a teenager. Yes, I do want to get connected as a teenager, but I want to start now. I want to get into her thoughts. I want to build a relationship with her. Same thing with my husband and my sons, but also me and my sons. I want to see how they're feeling about girls. I want to talk to them about certain things. So these are all the things that I'm learning about my family. Just take some time with them. So those are good things.
What about you, Nana, before we close out?
Yes. And so for me, from an educational standpoint, I will, or I have been taking advantage of the time by, building my pedagogy, my attending professional development that's going to help me to enhance my craft as a teacher, and also using all that information, that I'm learning, to translate it into the classroom, bringing it into the classroom, and also reaching out to my parents and sharing information with them. I'm also using the time to build my business, because it's in the area of education. I have been using some of my time for that as well. But even though it is a pandemic, and yes, it seems, oh my goodness, when is this going to be over? I think taking the time to look at it from a positive perspective and see how you can develop yourself as a person, whatever your role is. I think that's the best way to really hone in on it in this season. And I've been learning a lot. And so I look forward to using all of that information within my classroom and helping parents and children.
Listen, I hope that you all have enjoyed the show tonight. Latoya and Nadra, you have brought another perspective. You brought some more wealth of information to those that are watching, those that will see this on YouTube, those that will go play it back on Facebook. You brought some other perspective, something else to think about. And I love that, because everybody brings something different. And I love the fact, because with our show, with Real Talk, I love it because we're a community. And my whole basis for everything is learning and getting the message out there for people to really take root, and it can really do something. You said something tonight, Latoya, that's going to help some parents, that'll give them some else to think about. Nadra, from a scholastic point of view, as a teacher, as an educator, you really gave us some great information. And we're going to take full advantage of what you both said. So listen, to our viewing audience, you don't want to miss them. We are live on YouTube. We are live on Facebook. Go back and replay it, hear the information again. And guess what? We're also going to be doing Let's Talk. And you may want to just ask me some questions and I'll give you some answers. So thank you again for joining me on Real Talk with Jean Price. We'll see you next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Great. Thank you for being with us. Good night. Have you been enjoying the show? Make sure you comment and like. Tell us what you want to talk about. It might be featured on the next Real Talk with Jean Price.